Prophet Ibrahim planting the tree of Tawheed, a Maqasidic insight by Dr. Karim Abuzaid. Join us on Saturdays and Sundays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Laila Nasheeba, streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnah Followers.
Everybody should be able to see where I'm at here. Yeah, you loved it too. I think all of us, we all look at this chapter. When we read this chapter of the Quran, again, we're going to read it with in a different way. We're going to all view this surah in a different way. So, yes, there we are. We're on pages 137. You see, we're almost done. 137. We're going to be covering 137. In fact, we're going past 141. I wrote 137 through 141, but we're going past 141. Okay, we're going to go through that whole section. We're going to speak about how Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, his tree of Tawheed, we're going to see his tree of Tawheed in action. And we're going to be covering verses 31 through 41 of this amazing chapter of the Quran. Okay? Everybody see that? So let's get started. Let me make sure that it's all functioning correctly everything's functioning correctly because I'm on so many platforms. Got to make sure that they're all working correctly. All right, so here we go. After the Quran gives us the parable of the blessed tree, the tree that's firm in its roots, that's elevated in its branches, and that bears this amazing fruit, it immediately brings forth its living embodiment in the character of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. His life becomes a walking tafsir of that tree, okay? From the foundation of sincerity and certitude in his heart to the fruits. Remember, the fruits represent our character. The fruits of prayer, courage, and dawah. Prophet Abraham exemplifies the model of a true believer whose faith reaches the sky. Remember, we spoke last week about how Allah says, he mentions in the Quran, what an excellent example we have in Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, his character of courage, his character of faith. And if you ever wish to know the genuine concerns and priorities of a person, you will find them clearly reflected in the type of supplication they make. That's why it's so important, guys, to think about what you are asking from Allah in your supplication, because that has a lot to say about you as a person. What a person asks Allah for, it tells the state of your heart and the vision that you carry. In the case of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, his supplications were not filled with worldly requests. You know, a lot of people will make dua asking Allah, oh, give me money. I want to be rich. I want to be famous. I want a beautiful husband, a beautiful wife. I want beautiful children. I want a big house, a fancy car. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't ask for that type of stuff. But instead, he asked Allah to make his faith, his belief in Allah, take root, not just for himself, but for any progeny that he have. He also asked Allah for any offspring that he have, that he make them not only believe in Allah, but that they be firm in their belief, that they establish the prayer, and that they grow up, inclined to want to pray and to not be attached to the life of this world. How many of us make duas like that? How many of us, our supplications are, oh Allah, keep my children upon Islam. Oh Allah, make my children grow up attached to you, attached to the mosque. Make my children not be consumed with wealth, consumed with the life of this world. Let their hearts be connected to you, to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to those companions. How many of us make supplications like that? Okay? These are not personal prayers. These are strategic and legacy-driven and ummah-centered supplications. So Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, his deep concern for planting the tree of Tawheed, and was not just for his heart, but for every heart that came from his loins, subhanallah. Okay? And as a result of that, he used to say, by Allah's command, indeed, by Allah's command, Allah said, indeed, I will make you an imam for the people, subhanallah, a leader for the people, subhanallah. So his supplications reflect that leadership is not just leading in worship, but in vision, in value, and in generations, subhanallah. That's how the tree of Tawheed thrives. It thrives when the heart behind it lives for more than just itself. Many of us are just into ourselves. We don't think about the legacy that we leave behind, meaning our progeny, our children. That's why we have a high apostasy rate. Our children grow up and they upon something else other than Islam. We might have 2 or 3 that remain true, but the majority of our progeny is off into something else. Subhanallah. So verses 35 and 41, 35 through 41 of Surat Ibrahim are not just heartfelt supplications. They are a divine gift, a window into the inner life of Prophet Ibrahim. We get to see into his life. They represent a roadmap of values, priorities, and visionary concerns that are rooted in Tawheed. And we see the type of supplications he made. For example, we see that his supplications are supplications asking for protection against associating partners with Allah. They are supplications seeking the establishment of the prayer for his offspring. They are supplications asking for love and acceptance from the hearts. And also they are supplications asking for sustenance tied to gratitude. How many of us think to ask for that? And also they are supplications of forgiveness for himself, his family, and all the true believers. So this is not personal supplication alone. This is nation-centered. This is legacy-oriented and eternity-aware. It reflects the final fruit of the tree of faith, which is continuous benefit long after the tree's planter has passed. That's why I tell you guys, we have to think about what have we left behind that will be of benefit to us when we in that grave, That's why y'all hear me talking about that. I'm trying to leave behind something that's going to be of benefit to me when I'm in that grave. That's why I spend all my time on this internet and less time in this dunya. I ain't got time for this dunya to be partying and doing nonsensical women stuff. I got to do dawah, man. I got to get these videos out. I got to do some lectures so that when I die, I could die right now. I can walk, get up and go downstairs and fall and bust my head and die. I could get in a car accident and be killed. You know, what have I left behind that's going to be of continuous benefit to me long after I'm dead and gone? Subhanallah, my lectures, my website, what I left behind of this dawah. Because the kids might disappoint me. We got such a high apostation rate, we can't depend on these kids. This world we live in is so bad. People, like the Prophet said, they go in and out of Islam like a bow goes in and out of an arrow. So, hey, you got to have a plan B. You got to have a plan B and a plan C, because you can't just depend on your children. You know, your girls. I had a daughter. I didn't have no boys. I had a daughter. You know, she could hook up with some dude that can take her mind away. Okay? So I got to have a plan B. You know, my sons could end up in jail. My grandsons could end up in jail somewhere. You know, this world is messed up. They Muslim men. They could end up dead in the grave before I not even live as long as me. Heck. So you got to have a plan B, a plan C. So I got some dawah. I got my videos, my lectures, you know, the people whose lives I touch. Whenever I teach y'all about this deen, when you put it to use and when you share it with your kids, that's ongoing charity for me that'll benefit me long after I'm dead. I'll get the reward for it as y'all pass it on and do it even after I'm dead. So that's continuous benefit long after the tree's planter has passed. So I ain't got time for that female garbage. You know, that stuff that ain't of no benefit. Not at my age. If I was younger, yeah, I'm old. I ain't got time for it. So, firm roots. The fear of shirk. This is what Prophet Abraham alayhi salam feared. He had the fear of shirk even after he destroyed all the idols. Okay? He said, my Lord, make this city safe. When he left, remember, he left his country. He left his people when he realized that they were out to kill him. When he left and when he took his family to another part of the world and left them, he said, my Lord, make this city safe and keep me and my sons away from worshiping idols. So even after he smashed the idols and stood firm before the kings and walked through fire for the sake of Tawheed, he still feared falling into shirk. Why? A lot of you might ask, why? Because true monotheism isn't pride. And we're going to talk about pride this week for our Islam Q&A. Pride. True monotheism isn't pride, it's humility. It's not the absence of danger, but the constant awareness of our vulnerability. Remember, we talked about that yesterday in our El-Walad Wal-Bara class. You know, we're vulnerable. The fitra is vulnerable. The soul is vulnerable. We're vulnerable to our environment. Okay? We're easily influenced by our environment, what's around us. So this is why Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam made this dua. He said, "Oh Allah, make this city safe and keep me and my sons away from worshiping idols." Even though he was a prophet of Allah, he knew he's still human. The soul is criminal by nature, remember? The soul is attracted to everything that's bad for it. The fitra is in the heart. It's seeking the truth. The fitra is seeking submittance to Allah, but it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable to its environment. And the only thing that can keep us, the fitra, from dimming, the only thing that can protect the soul from caving in and falling victim to its surroundings is Allah. Allah, guys. Allah. So that's why Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam asked Allah to save him and his sons from that. The same way the Prophet Muhammad asked Allah to save him from that. The same way you and I should make dua every day, asking Allah to save us from falling victim to the evil of ourselves. Because the heart of man lies between the fingers of Allah. SubhanAllah. So, before planting the tree of Tawheed, remember the soil of the heart has to be cleared of weeds. The subtle forms of shirk, such as arrogance, heedlessness, those are the weeds of the heart. Just because you've broken the physical idols doesn't mean that you are immune from the idols of the heart, such as fame. Look at how the brothers fall from fame every day. And wealth, look at how the sisters and brothers alike fall from wealth every day. Or ego, look at how we all fall from ego every day. And conformity. SubhanAllah. So a culture immersed in shirk can influence even the strongest of us. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was no different, and he understood this. And so he asked not just for guidance, but for protection for him and all his offspring and descendants. How many of us do that? You're not just asking for you, but for your descendants. Protection for me and mine. Just like someone preparing to perform ruqya, you must protect yourself before confronting what's unseen. The one who carries the banner of Tawheed must first seek Allah's protection. Even our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had the most purest of hearts, he used to say, "Oh Allah, the turner of hearts, keep my heart firm upon your religion." Like I said, none of us is exempt or immune from being vulnerable. SubhanAllah. Somebody asked me yesterday in my Islam Q&A, why come you can't call yourself a mufti? Why come you can't call yourself Taqi? The Prophet Muhammad said, because you can't, don't give yourself names that you can't live up to. You're human. Don't call yourself the most pious, the most righteous, when even the most pious, even the most righteous can fall into sin. And how dare you think you the most knowledgeable when only Allah is? There's always someone more knowledgeable than you. You learn that with Musa alayhi salam and El-Khidr. That's why the Prophet said it. Okay? So this is the essence of rooted Tawheed, a heart that trembles not with doubt, but with deep dependence upon Allah. It knows that guidance is not a one-time event, but a gift that must be sought, protected, and renewed every single day. Like I tell y'all, the heart of man lies between the fingers of Allah. SubhanAllah. So, in the very same verse where Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam asked Allah to keep his descendants safe from idol worship, he also begins with another important request. He says, "My Lord, make this city safe." This tells us, and this shows us, that before planting the tree of Tawheed, the ground must be made secure and safe. Just as a tree cannot take root in unstable, poisoned soil, faith cannot flourish in fear or chaos. Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't just pray for spiritual purity, he prayed for physical security, for peace and stability. Why? Because dawah thrives where lives are protected and hearts are free to turn to Allah. The true carriers of dawah are not seekers of conflict. They are builders of peace. That's why I tell you, brothers, listen to me. Y'all got to stop all that arguing and debating on the internet. That's not true dawah. It's not about arguing your view, your opinion versus mine. The true carriers of dawah, we are builders of peace. We do not just challenge falsehood. We create environments in which the truth can grow. Why? Because the fitra, it has to thrive. The fitra is seeking the truth. It's not seeking falsehood. It's not seeking conflict. It's not seeking argumentation and debate. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the people whom Allah hates the most and will not even look at, but will have dragged by their faces and thrown in hell on the day of judgment are the debaters. You know, the fitra is seeking the truth. The truth can't grow in an environment like that. Okay? Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was not only asking for his personal protection, he was pleading for the security of an entire community, but also a place where future generations could pray, learn, and live without fear, without conflict and all of that. While you brothers are sitting up on social media, arguing, debating, and all this challenging and fighting, you're confusing people because most Muslims are ignorant of Islam. They don't know the truth. They don't know truth from falsehood. They don't know nothing. And all you're doing is stifling their fitra. You're reveling up their soul. The soul is attracted to conflict. The soul is attracted to all that drama. You're pushing them away from Islam and pushing them further out into the dunya. And you think you're giving dawah? You're not giving dawah. Not dawah to Islam. You're giving dawah to shaitan. You're giving dawah for shaitan. You are awliya of shaitan. You're not awliya of Allah. Okay? And also, security is not just physical. Security is also spiritual and cultural. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam understood that an environment filled with shirk is toxic. It's toxic to the tree of faith. It chokes the roots. It darkens the sky, and it poisons the heart. That's why after confronting his people with reasoning and challenging their beliefs and offering them the light of the truth, he left. He migrated. That's when he said, I am going to my Lord, and my Lord will guide me. He didn't leave out of fear. He left out of protection to preserve the tree of Tawheed in his heart. He left the land of the idols behind. And we might have, sometimes we have no choice but to do that. So sometimes protecting your faith means walking away from a place where darkness is just too deeply rooted. He wasn't just seeking a new home. He was seeking a pure environment to plant the future of a nation, to build a sanctuary where Tawheed could not just survive, but thrive. And that's what led to the trunk of submission that we spoke about last week. Obedience. Obedience. It's hard to obey Allah when you're living surrounded by all that filth. And after Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam left and settled someplace new, that's when he said, "Oh, our Lord, I have settled some of my descendants in an uncultivated valley near your sacred house." A lot of people may ask, what kind of obedience would lead a father to leave his wife and infant son in the heart of a barren, lifeless desert? Because that's what he did. He left Hajar, who was one of his wives, and his son in a lifeless desert. This was not just obedience. It was also submission. Remember, what is the fitra seeking? What is the fitra seeking? The fitra is seeking two things. It's seeking the truth and submittance to the will of Allah. Allah commanded him to do that. And remember, the believers don't ask why. The believers simply say how and okay. And that's what he did. And the good thing is he had a good wife. That's the problem today, brothers. A lot of you brothers, you don't have good wives. A lot of you men, water seeks its own level. That's the problem. A lot of you men ain't good. So you marry women that ain't good. Okay? Good women are for good men. Some brothers got good wives, okay? But a lot of you don't, because you brothers ain't on the level of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, okay? But Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, both his wives were good. They were on his level, because righteous men are for righteous women. He was a righteous man, and both his wives were righteous. So when he left her there, she didn't say, "Oh no, you're abandoning me." She was a God-fearing woman too. So when he left her there, she didn't say, "Why are you doing this?" She said, "Did Allah tell you to leave me here?" He didn't answer. She knew it. She said, "Well, if Allah said leave me here, then here I shall stay." And she stayed, because she knew her husband wouldn't have done that to her. She knew she didn't marry a brute. She didn't marry a man who didn't provide for her. She didn't marry a man who didn't take care of her. She married a man who did his job. So she knew, I didn't marry a brute. My husband's a good man. So if he's doing this, Allah had to tell him to do it. So I'm gonna do what Allah told him to do and stay here and put my trust in the Lord and know that that Allah got a reason for it, and I'm gonna suck it up. And she sucked it up because she was a righteous woman, just like he was a righteous man. So Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't leave his family in a lush land with worldly security. He left them in a valley of nothing, but it was next to the house of everything. It was next to the house of Allah. So when Hajar asked, did Allah command you to do this? And he nodded, her heart responded with trust. And she said, then he will not neglect her. Because, see, he didn't marry no skank. He didn't marry no skanky woman. He married a righteous woman. He didn't settle for the non-believer like a lot of you brothers are doing today. Y'all marrying non-Muslim women. Nor did he marry a skanky woman like a lot of you brothers are doing too. He married a woman who was on his level, who was God-fearing and righteous like him, who believed La ilaha illallah like him. He married her for that first and foremost. Okay? That's why you gotta be careful. Like the Prophet Muhammad said, make religion the priority. If she ain't religious, then nothing else matter. And the same with the man. If the man ain't religious, sisters, y'all better keep it moving. Unless you're skanky, then you can go ahead and marry your skanky man. Okay? So this moment reveals the trunk of Ibrahim's tree, alayhi salam. It was strong, silent, and firm. The kind of obedience that supports generations. But it also shows the fertile ground he chose for the future of the Ummah. Okay? He didn't place his family in the desert to abandon them. He put them near the sacred house. He didn't leave them in the projects. Let's make it Maqasid. This is the Maqasidic Tafsir. He didn't leave his wife and son in the projects where people shooting, killing, drugs, sex, alcohol. He left them near the Kaaba, the house of Allah. He left them in the nice, classy suburb, free from the sex, drugs, rock and roll, and told them, I'll be back. What man would leave his wife and son in a place of danger? Y'all get it? He didn't leave his wife and son in a place of danger. He left them right there in the hands of Allah. That's the point. He left them near the sacred house where the tree of Tawheed could be nourished with prayer, supplication, and love. This wasn't about geography. It was about spiritualism. He prayed not just for survival, but for the establishment of prayer, remember? The turning of the heart and the growth of a grateful community. Remember, his supplication was, O Allah, so that they may establish the prayer, that's the Kaaba. So make their hearts be among the people, incline toward them, and provide for them from the fruits so that they may be grateful. Okay? This is the soil in which the tree of Tawheed flourishes. Prayer roots the soul and connects to Allah. Supplication waters the heart with remembrance, and sincerity keeps the intentions pure, and gratefulness protects the fruits from arrogance. So he left them not in a fruitless, uninhabited desert. He left them close to the house of Allah, under the protection of Allah. Y'all get it? What a beautiful parable. See that? Allah is so Akbar. So Ibrahim alayhi salam wasn't just building a family. He was planting a nation. He knew that for Tawheed to thrive, the people needed more than food. They needed companionship. They needed belonging, and they needed a spiritual home. So he asked Allah to send hearts, not just hands, company, not just money, and provision, not just survival, along with sustenance that would lead to thankfulness, not just forgetfulness.